Hi everybody, welcome to a Crochet Extras, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a little fir tree like this one here. And if you're wondering, if you're new to these videos and this crochet along and you're wondering what this road piece is, this is part of a crochet along for a road playmat, so you may want to go check out some of the other videos to make the individual squares which are going to make up the road playmat or blankets. But for this is like an additional extra tutorial to go with the playmats, but it's a great little project by itself as well. So this little fir tree, which would lend itself to being a really cute little Christmas tree around Christmas time if you decorated it with little bits and bobs of different coloured yarns. We're going to be using some green yarn and some brown yarn, and this yarn is a DK light worsted weight yarn. That's a yarn weight of 3. And I'm going to be using with that yarn a 3.5mm E4 crochet hook, and you're also going to need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle as well, and you're also going to need a little bit of toy stuffing as well, but you can use just yarn scraps as well for stuffing your little tree. Okay, so let's begin. So this little tree is actually going to be worked in rows, where we're going to join it along here. So rather than working top down, we're going to work sideways. And the first thing to do is take your green yarn and we are going to chain 9. Okay, we're going to chain 9. So we're going to do our little slip knot. And we're going to chain 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Just 9 chains. And what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch in our second stitch from hook. Now our second stitch from hook, we don't count the loop on our hook. There's our first stitch, which is our last chain, and there's our second one. So you want to put your hook in there and do a little slip stitch. Okay, and then we're going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch as well. So find your next chain along. I'm going to do a little slip stitch in there as well. Put it through the stitch and then straight through the loop on your hook to do a slip stitch. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Let's go into the next chain and do a single crochet. It's in US terminology. Single crochet, and we're going to do a single crochet in the next chain as well. So you want to do 1 single crochet in the next 2, then we're going to do a half double crochet in the next 2. So in the next chain we do a half double crochet, half double crochet, and we're going to do a half double crochet in the next chain as well. So yarn over, go into the next chain, do a half double crochet, pull through all 3, let's do a half double crochet, and that should leave you with 2 stitches, 2 chains, and in those last 2 we're going to do some double crochets. So yarn over, go into the next chain and do a double crochet, and then the last one we do a double crochet as well. So you end up with this kind of very pointy leaf shape like so, which is larger this end and smaller at that end. And we're just going to repeat that in the opposite direction for the next row. So we're going to chain 1, don't count that as a stitch, it's just going to turn. Then working in the opposite direction, we're going to repeat the same thing but in reverse. So in the very first stitch, go into that very first stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. Then we do a double crochet in the next stitch, and then we go down to a half double crochet in the next 2, half double crochet in the next stitch, pull through all 3, half double crochet in the next stitch, and then we want to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So in the next stitch we do a single crochet, The next stitch we do a single crochet as well. Then in the very last two we need to do a slip stitch. So one slip stitch in the last two stitches, and they could be a little bit harder to find because they were slip stitches before, so they should just be hiding over the other side like that. A little slip stitch in that next stitch, and in the very last one I want to do a slip stitch in there as well. Okay. Like so. So we've just repeated that in the opposite direction, keeping it wide at this end and narrow at this end. And we want to repeat those two rows. We want to repeat those two rows up to row 8. So for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the next 6 rows, we want to repeat that. So we're going for the next row, we are going to chain 1. Again, don't count that as a stitch, and turn. And then we start off with a slip stitch in the first 2. So go into that first stitch. It's a little bit tricky because there were slip stitches. That first stitch, do another slip stitch, and a slip stitch in the next stitch. Then in the next 2 we do a single crochet. So in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet, next stitch 1 single crochet. Then the next 2 we're doing half double crochet, so the next stitch 1 half double crochet, next stitch 1 half double crochet. Then the last 2 we do double crochets, so next stitch a double crochet, next stitch double crochet. And then we go back to doing that in reverse, remembering to chain 1, don't count that a stitch, and turn. Yeah, so what you want to do is repeat those last 2 rows for the next 5 rows, going back and forwards like that, making sure to keep it wider this end and narrow at this end. And you should end on row 8, should make you end up at the point of your tree. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to speed up my video and do that for the next 5 rows, and then I shall come back and show you what to do next. So we chained 1, turn, 1 double crochet in the next 2. Okay, so just coming up to those last 2 slip stitches on the 8th row. So I've done 5 more rows of repeating those last 2 rows. I can just get into that last slip stitch. There we go. So there we go. I mean, it should look a little something like that. It should be quite wide this end and it should be quite narrow that end, which would lend itself to a cute little skirt for a doll, actually, if you made 2 of these and joined them together at the sides. But anyway, now we're going to join our little tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to technically just literally fold this in half. So you want to fold it in half. You want to make sure you're this end at the point of the tree. Okay, so we're going to fold that in half and keep it flat for now. And we are going to put our hook back in. And what we're actually going to do is we are just, first of all, we are going to put our hook into that the first chain on this first row. So you should have, in total, you should have 8 chains along here, and you should still have 8 stitches along here. So put your hook into that first slip stitch in the opposite direction. Don't chain one or turn, don't chain one, you want to turn. Don't chain one, but turn and just put your hook straight into that first slip stitch. Then find the corresponding foundation chain along here. So hopefully you can still see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A trick to helping you see these again is to actually, when you first work into them, just work under one bit of a loop, just one bit of yarn, and it helps you see them at the end. So find that first foundation chain and bring that through the first foundation chain and through that slip stitch and straight through the loop on your hook to do a slip stitch. If you prefer, you can just sew down this end if you want to, but this is so you don't have to fasten off. So then we go into our second slip stitch and find the corresponding foundation stitch on there. Bring that through the foundation chain, through the stitch and do a slip stitch. And just continue that for all 8 stitches down the side of your tree. 3, 4, 5, 6, tail end out the way. 7, and the last one, 8. Go into there. 8. Oops, there we go. So there we go, we've just slip stitched down the edge of our little tree, and then what we can do is just shape our little tree, and there we go, there is the cone shape of our little fir tree. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to work some stitches neatly around the edge of the bottom now. So you just want to tuck your tail end on the inside, and it doesn't matter how many stitches you do as long as they're neatly positioned and you've got an even number. So I worked to 16 stitches. I doubled up my stitch count just by working them neatly around the edge as best as you can. And obviously you don't have stitches, proper stitches to work into along here. So you're literally just going to have to push through bits of yarn to create a stitch. So the first thing to do is just push your hook through a bit of yarn, which will probably end up being your last stitch, and do a single crochet. Okay, so there's our first one. And then you just want to go across slightly. You may just want to go through a big gap if it's easier, or you may choose to go through, push through a little bit of yarn like that. 2, and move over and do the same thing, and just move over naturally, don't pull or anything like that, just gently move over, and that should help keep your stitches evenly spaced. 3, and there's a bit of a gap there I can go in. 4, 5, I'm just pushing through bits of yarn, there's no real stitches here. 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, find 15, and I've ended on an odd number of 15, and I want to just round that up to 16. So I'm just going to pop a little extra one in there to get it to an even number, 16. Okay, so now I've got a stitch count of 16 around the edge, and then you want to find your first single crochet that you did, which is just there, and do a little slip stitch to join the round, and just check your stitch count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, so we've got an even number of stitches. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we are going to chain 1. I'm not going to count that as a stitch, we're going to ignore that as a stitch. And what we want to do is we want to go back into the same single crochet we just slip stitched into. So put your hook back into that same single crochet we slip stitched into, and what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together, and to do that we're going to bring the yarn through, but instead of finishing our single crochet we're going to stop there and go into the next stitch, bring the yarn through, so you've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 to single crochet 2 together. Then we're going to do that for every 2 stitches around, so we're going to go into the next 2, yarn into the next stitch, bring the yarn through, stop, go into the next stitch, bring the yarn through, got your 3 loops, pull the yarn through all 3, single crochet 2 together. Do the same for the next 2, stop, next stitch, 3 loops, pull through all 3, do the same for the next 2, 9 and 10. Do that for every 2 stitches around. 11, 12, single crochet those 2 together. 13, 14, the last 2, 15 and 16. Single crochet those 2 together. Okay, and then what you want to do is your stitch count, just pull your hook up slightly, your stitch count should have gone back down to 8, well it should be 8 and go back down, it was 8 along there, but 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, you should have a stitch count of 8. What we're going to do now is we are going to stuff our little tree at this point. So get your toy stuffing or your yarn scraps and then just stuff your little tree. I always recommend stuffing with similar colours to your project. So I'm just going to get some yarn scraps and use the end of my very blunt scissors and stuff the tree. So just stuff your little tree. I shall do that and then I shall come back and show you what to do next. Okay, so when you've finished stuffing your tree, what we're going to do is rejoin our hook, and then we need to find that first single crochet, which is going to be on our first single crochet 2 together. Put your hook in there, get my stuffing out of the way, put your hook in there to that first single crochet. And instead of yarning over with the green though, we are going to yarn over with our brown. So we're going to get our brown yarn, just bring that, lay that over our hook. I'm just going to hold that with my finger, hook that through that first single crochet and then straight through the loop of my hook. And now we're working with our brown. I'm just going to pull that tight. And what we are going to do is we are going to we're going to go back into that same single crochet we've just brought the brown through, go straight back into there again and do a single crochet. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit loose. But what we're going to do is, I'm just going to put that down a sec. I'm going to cut the green yarn, so we're finished with our green yarn. Move that out of the way. Then I'm going to take my two tail ends, keeping my hook in the stitch. I'm just going to tie that. Try and keep that in there so you keep your loop. And I'm going to push those tail ends on the inside. Okay, so you've done one single crochet in that same first single crochet you just joined the brown into, that you slip stitched into. And what we're going to do is we're going to do one single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 8. So we're going to go straight into the next stitch and do a single crochet. And do one single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 8. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and then that's what I call a fake stitch. Looks like there's another stitch there. What you want to do is actually find the first single crochet that you did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is shrunk on me because I pulled my yarn, and do a slip stitch to join the round. And there you go, you should still have a stitch count of 8, and you want to repeat that for another 3 rounds. So what you want to do is we're going to chain 1, don't count that as a stitch, just ignore that as a stitch. We're going to go back into the same stitch that we slip stitched into and do a single crochet. So go back into that same single crochet you just slip stitched into and do a single crochet. And we're going to do one single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 8. Then we slip stitch in that, skip the chain 1, then do a slip stitch in that first single crochet to join the round. And you want to do that for 3 rounds. Okay, so just 3 rounds of one single crochet in each stitch around. And if you prefer, you can just work continuously. You don't have to chain 1 at the beginning and slip stitch at the end. You can just work it around if you want to, if that's easier. Okay, so I shall do that and then I shall come back. So I'm at the end again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that little chain 1, find that first single crochet that I did, just slip stitch into that first single crochet, then repeat it for another 2 rounds. So chain 1, don't count that as a stitch, go back into the same single crochet you slip stitched into, and do another single crochet, and do one single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so you want that done in total for 4 rounds in brown, so I need to do 2 more. Okay, so just going up to the last stitch on the last round, and then find your first single crochet that you did and slip stitch into there. You should still have a stitch count of 8. Okay, and then I'm going to fasten off, leaving a little bit of yarn for sewing if you want to sew it onto one of your squares on the crochet along. And there we go, there is our little fir tree. So then all that's left to do is shape that a little bit, and then find a road piece if you want to. You may just want to sew up the end, stuff the end, if you want to keep it as an independent tree. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of the crochet-along squares, which we've been doing, and I've got a pond piece here, and I'm going to sew this tree next to my little pond. So to do that, and avoiding the edges, if you're following the cow, we need to always avoid the edges if we plan to sew them together. So I'm just going to go into there. You don't need to stuff your trunk. I seem to have a loose bit of yarn sticking out. Where's that come from? There's a bit of my stuffing on the inside, actually. Just cut that off. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in from underneath and come out through one of the stitches, and then I'm going to go over into the next stitch and then down to the bottom again, and then I'm going to come up again and go into the next stitch along, then I'm going to go over to the next stitch and down, and just continue this until your tree is securely sewn on. Then when you've finished sewing, I'm just going to secure on the bottom. Then trim the excess. Add that to my pile of stuffing. And there we go, there is our little fir tree next to our pond. And if it's Christmas time, you could put a little star on top and add little bits of coloured yarn, or even sew on some nice brightly coloured yarn for a bit of tinsel for a Christmas tree. But there we go, there is our little fir tree, and I hope you managed to follow along. I think I'm losing my voice a bit from doing so many videos lately, so I do apologise if I'm a bit quiet in this video. But I hope you enjoy making some different type trees. And I say different type trees because if you haven't been following our crochet along, we also have some round trees, and you can find links to all these different squares for the crochet along in the description below. We've got all manner of different squares. We've got loads now. We've been making long grass squares, we've been doing road pieces, and we've even been doing curved road pieces, and I've got even added some like little apples to this round tree. And we even have somewhere, which I think my little girl has borrowed, shall we say, before this is finished, some little cars as well. But there's going to be a lot going on in this crochet along to make this road playmat, so if you want to join, I shall put links in the description below to all these tutorials we've done so far. It's not over yet, and I will see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. Oh, and in my next video I'm going to be showing you how to make the ploughed field using this fun little stitch. See you soon. Bye. And you should end on a row where you finish at this end at the point. You should end on this end, and yes, does that make any sense? I don't know what I'm talking about.